Hi again guys, and welcome to episode 32 of D.A.R.C, or Does Anyone Really Care? The mini review series for Gran Turismo 6, where we're just doing a quick evaluation of certain cars which seem to be overlooked or underappreciated by the majority of GT6 users. So in this particular episode we'll be looking at the Suzuki Alto, and this particular model is the Lapin, or Lapin, however you pronounce it, Turbo model. And out of all the K cars on the game, it's one of the lowest in terms of PP, and one of the least used. It's not exactly an exciting car to look at. At the end of the day, it's a box with an engine, and it doesn't have the fancy names of many of them. It's not the Daihatsu Core Avanzato TRX XR4 or the Suzuki Alto Works Sports RS Limited Turbo RS2 Plus with the optional windscreen. It's just the Suzuki Alto Lapin Turbo. Deep breath after saying all that. So is it any good? It's only a 12.5 grand car. So let's be honest, that's less than a turbo on Gran Turismo. So it's not exactly a lot of money to waste if you never use the car or hardly use it that much. But is it worth having in your garage at all? That's the question. Well, I would say yes it is, because there are a few things about this car which make it unique even among the K car category. Now, although it's small and it is light, as you would expect, it's not as light as many of the other K car models. With the full weight loss package, it actually weighs in at 732 kilos, which is lightweight, as we said, but there are many K cars that weigh far less than that. And the reason why is because it's all-wheel drive. And that's an interesting feature to have from a K car. There are not many all-wheel drive K cars on Gran Turismo 6. The vast majority are front-wheel drive. There are some all-wheel drive models, like a Daihatsu Move, but most of them, by far the majority, are front-wheel drive. Now, I know a lot of people do prefer front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive over all-wheel drive, but personally I think if you have the option of having more traction, it's stupid to say no. Now, all-wheel drive gives it fairly neutral handling, tons of grip, as you'd expect, and it makes the handling very reliable, very consistent. You can have confidence that the car isn't going to suddenly do something to surprise you. The handling is, as you would probably expect, very, very good on this car. And although fully tuned, it only puts out 142 horsepower, so it's not going to break any records. It's got just enough power to make it quick enough to be competitive in its PP range, but not so quick that it's difficult to drive, twitchy or unpredictable. Now, speaking of its PP, it sits fully tuned at 418 pp, which is pretty low. That's significantly lower than many of the other K car models, and it's the lowest PP Suzuki model in the game. So is it worth your time? Because after all, you can get, as we've said, far more powerful, far lighter and far more interesting looking K cars. Well, the real great thing about this model in particular is how low the PP actually is. Now, obviously you can down tune other K car models to the same PP as this, but this car is just simpler. You don't have to down tune it. Fully tuned, its PP is significantly lower, and if you do happen to want to down tune it, it fits perfectly in the 400 pp category, but you can even lower it to 350 or even 300. And it's still a very competitive little car. The handling is excellent. The brakes are very, very good. As we said, there is tons of grip thanks to the all-wheel drive. It takes corners at speeds which would truly worry many so-called sports cars. And the great thing about little cars like this is, although they're not as quick on the straights, they can take corners at such high speed that you actually end up taking corners at almost the same speed as you can do on the straights anyway. So your overall laps actually aren't that bad, especially on twisty tracks such as the Nürburgring, Sierra, maybe tracks like Laguna Seca as well, tracks where most cars you have to really hold back with. With cars like this, you don't. You can throw them into corners and they will just be consistent, corner after corner after corner. They won't go off in the sand, they won't spin out, they'll just take the corner at very high speed and be, at the same time, very fun to drive. And that's another one of the great things about this car. You don't have to be a professional level driver to get a great lap out of this kind of car and to have fun in this kind of car. It's such a forgiving car. Many cars of its type are, but this particular one is a very forgiving car. It's great for beginners. And if you're not familiar with racing procedures, such as where to position your car, the racing line, that kind of thing, this is a great introduction to that, because it has just enough power to teach you those things and to help you to achieve faster and faster laps, but not so much power and performance that it's difficult to drive. So it's an excellent car for beginners as well. But even for people who are more skilled and have more experience in racing, it's still a very fun little car to drive. And as we said, very competitive in the lower PP ranges. So if you haven't tried this car, and I feel like probably a lot of people haven't, because at the end of the day, like we said, there are far more exciting K-car models, then I would definitely recommend that you try this car at least once. As we said, it's only a 12.5 grand car, so it's not a lot of money to waste, as it were, if you don't use it that often, but it's potentially a great little car that you could have in your collection for when you need it. So that's it for this episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.